Hi, Deborah Roth here from Spirited Living. Lovely to be back with you. A little later than I planned. I was going to do my weekly Dancing with Your Divinely Feminine Wisdom Goddess team at 6 today, and was tied up a little with my own little goddess, my granddaughter, coming back from New Jersey with her. So delighted to be here, and what I do today, what I've been doing in these Wednesday evening things is looking at different aspects of the divine feminine, calling on what I call our inner goddess team, which regardless of whether you're male or female, we all have a good solid store of masculine and feminine energy within us. And because this world is so in need of the feminine, intuitive, collaborative, cooperative, empathetic energy, things have gotten a little out of balance. So I love to focus on the divine feminine, and each week, sometimes I look and see what's going on in seasonally, and you know, a goddess will kind of knock on my inner door and say, I want to come in, and other times I just kind of say, okay, you know, might not be related to anything I'm aware of. And this week, interestingly enough, and boy does she feel very apropos for this week in particular, and today in particular, what came up for me was not really a goddess, actually. She, and if you saw in the story that I posted, giving you a little heads up, who came through is Pandora, and specifically Pandora as she appears in this wonderful, one of my favorite tarot decks called the Mythic Tarot, and wonderful images. It's all based on Greek mythology, and the woman who wrote it, not the illustrator, Julia, oh gosh, I'm not going to remember her name. I can check the book. Hold on. This is a very old copy of the book. It's called The Mythic Tarot. Juliet Sharman Burke is the illustrator, and Liz Green is this wonderful, Jungian astrologer and therapist. And the image that came up, that just popped in when I was asking, I think maybe even on Sunday or Monday, who wanted to come knocking, who wanted to come be with us today, was the star card. And I don't know how well you can see that. And this is Pandora. And again, I'm not sure how, okay, but I think it's coming through better on Facebook, but in this little image, so I said both of these, that the image that appears in here is actually the star of hope. And I made the mistake. I went back and forth, debated with myself whether I wanted to watch the debate last night. And I did, and I'm sorry I did. It haunted me all night, and in fact made me feel somewhat hopeless about the state of our country, to be perfectly blunt. And so to realize, even before I knew, I mean, there are several things going on personally and in the world that are distressing, and so it wasn't so much Pandora, because she kind of gets a bad rap in the myth, and I'll give you the Reader's Digest version, the very truncated version of the Pandora myth, but more the notion of hope and what hope represents, and why Pandora is connected with hope. So Pandora was actually in this myth. She was actually created from clay and sticks and things by the order of Zeus, when he was looking for ways to punish humankind after Prometheus gave us fire. So he had already published Prometheus, so then he decided he wanted to and did several things to punish mankind and humankind. And what he did was he ordered that this image be constructed with all the wonderful, beautiful qualities of a goddess, and all of the goddesses' special gifts, and all the deities, all the Greek gods and goddesses, jumped in and participated. but also she was Hermes infused her with perfidy, which actually means deception, and with deceit and lies, and so she was brought to Earth. And there's a whole bunch of the myth that I'm not going to tell, but she ends up opening, which you've probably heard the story of Pandora. She opens this chest, this box, which she has been forbidden to open, sort of like the whole Adam and Eve thing, and out flies the spites, as they were called. Is that what they were called? Yes. And basically those were all these terrible human afflictions. Old age, I mean, they list them all, and a few of them were old age, not death so much, but the things that we experience when we're living. Sickness, insanity, all these things were leashed onto humankind by Zeus's order. And somehow, and this is what this lovely card represents, somehow hope got in there as well. And so the image of hope is the beautiful feminine image, because the feminine, as we were talking about in the kind of definition of the divine feminine, it's about intuition. It is about our non-linear, irrational, or non-rational selves. And what she represents, what hope represents, is this ability to rise above the despair of wherever we are in our lives or in the world, and to have faith that we will be moving towards something better. She really symbolizes, and the star of hope, as represented in the Pandora myth, symbolizes that even despite disappointment, disillusion, depression, loss, and when you think of the times, and medical doctors will tell you this, faced with all of those things, faced with death in concentration camps, or when patients are the patients that heal faster or overcome a very dire diagnosis are those who maintain hope. And so that the idea of hope is really resonating with me right now. And I'm going to share with you, I want to share with you, read a little bit right from Liz Green's amazing writing, just because I think it's just so lyrical, so powerful. Hope is a profound and mysterious thing, for it would seem that it can transcend anything life offers in the way of catastrophe. Yet it does not arise from an act of will, any more than the star of hope appears in the myth of Pandora through any deliberate action on her part. It simply is there, mysteriously locked in the chest. So what that says is that somehow, if we're able to tap into that notion of hope, and what I thought was very interesting, and I had this conversation with my husband Peter over the weekend too, talking about hope. I think it was in my fall equinox video. I talked about when you've lost hope, the daughters of hope. This was a beautiful writing that was in the one of my calendars that I love, the Wee Moon calendar, which I think I showed you, which is filled with all kinds of lovely essays and artwork. And this woman that wrote about hope talked about anger and courage being what you can bring up when when you no longer have hope. And it's an act, as she says, of radical willfulness. What I'm holding this week, and what I invite you to hold this week, is the energy of hope. With everything going on in the world, and I don't need to elaborate everything right now, I've shared a couple of things, to somehow reach into your Pandora's chest and push away, those other things, those spites, those afflictions in the chest of life, and to hold on to that image, that glowing image of the Star of Hope. And as you do that, this is a very sweet chant from Starhawk, who's a pretty well-known writer. She's an NPR journalist. just a wonderful. She's probably one of the foremost earth-centered, witchy women around, and is a brilliant writer. And I got this chant from her. I don't know if it's original with her. So it's the chant I'm going to share with you before we sign off. And it goes like this. We are the power in everyone, and we are the dance of the moon and the sun. We are the hope that will not die, and we are the turning of the tide. We are the power in everyone, and we are the dance of the moon and the sun. We are the hope that will not die, and we are the turning of the tide. Isn't that perfect? We are the turning of the tide. We are the hope that will not die. So I just invite you to hold that in the midst of all of the spites, of all the afflictions that surround us in the world, whatever's going on in your personal life, in the larger world, and hold that light of hope. Hold the star of hope in you. And yeah, carry that with you now. Thanks so much for being with me, and I'll see you again next week, I think. Bye for now. Namaste.